I'm Michelle. I'm doing the presentation this week on historical fiction, which can generally be coined as a book that kind of takes place around true historical events or people. And the author takes liberty in adding fictional people, fictional circumstances, and things like that. But basically revolves around something that happened accurately. The book that I chose to do it on this week is called Number the Stars. It's by Lois Lowry, and it was written in 1989 and published by the Houghton Mifflin Publishing Company. It won a Newbery Award in 1990. And a interesting fact to know is that in 2001, it was the 82nd bestseller in children's literature in anywhere in the world, or at least anywhere in America, and continues to be popular today. Um, it the story takes place in Copenhagen, Denmark during World War II, and it's about a girl named Anne-Marie Johansen and her friend Ellen Rosen, who is Jewish. And Anne-Marie has a little sister named Kirsty, who's 5, and of course her parents. And she also had a sister, Lise, who died a couple of years previously in a motor vehicle accident. And her fiance was Peter. They were just about to be married. And he still plays a prevalent part in the story. The story begins with the girls, all 3 of them, walking home from school, and they are run into some German soldiers who at that time have invaded Copenhagen and are pretty much on every street corner. And they are interrogated, and Kirsty, who is 5, is clueless as to there even being a problem. It reminds me of my little 6-year-old granddaughter, Kaisley, who kind of talks, isn't afraid to say anything. They go home and talk to her parents, Anne-Marie's parents, and Anne-Marie and Ellen are old enough at this time to kind of suspect that there are things going on, and there's obviously trouble why the Germans have invaded their city. It's discovered that night that from Peter, who comes to the home of the Johansens and tells them that for whatever reason, the Jews are being relocated by the German soldiers, and those names have been given out at the synagogue where the Rosens attend. So the Ellen's parents quickly leave, and Ellen goes across the hall and stays with the Johansens for the night. And in the morning, the mom will take the 3 girls and go to stay with her brother, whose name is Henrik, in Sweden. And well, he lives across the sea from Sweden, but anyway, you'll find out more about that story. And so that night, as Ellen is sleeping in the bed with Anne-Marie, there's a knock on the door and the soldiers come in. And of course, they're scared about what's going to happen. And Anne-Marie breaks the Star of David necklace that Ellen's wearing around her neck to protect that. And the soldiers come in and interrogate. And fortunately, the Johansens had a picture album that was close and were able to produce 3 pictures of 3 little girls, and one of them having dark hair, who is Lise, who has died a couple of years earlier. And fortunately, the German soldiers don't necessarily pay attention to the dates, and they leave them alone. So they get up the next morning and they leave. And as we find out as they get to Henrik's house, that he is involved with helping the Jews to escape into Sweden and in the resistance. And Peter is in that as well. And so through that, some plans are made, and the girls are safe for a time. And Henrik goes on these fishing expeditions, which, as we find out later, are the way that he helps the Jews to escape. One night, Great Aunt Bert dies, and they prepare to have the mourning take place in their home and bring the casket in, which is the ritual that happens when someone dies. And of course, Anne-Marie doesn't know any Aunt Bert, so she knows that something is up. She's told just barely enough to get her through that situation, but she doesn't know any more than that. And come to find out, as the soldiers come again and interrogate her during this time, that they're explained to that Great Aunt Bert had typhus, which is a contagious disease, and they're able to bypass them opening the casket and seeing that, and they get them to leave. And when the soldiers leave, the casket is opened, and it reveals Ellen's parents, as well as a couple of other people who have come to this funeral that are going to make their escape the next morning. And so they do, and they say their goodbyes, and they are able to successfully get them out. It is discovered the following morning that they had left a handkerchief outside. It had fallen on the ground, and it's a handkerchief that's used to kind of neutralize the smell of people, so that when the search dogs are on these fishing boats, that they won't smell humans. And so she bravely discovers that and decides that her mother sends her, because her mother's broken her ankle coming back. So Anne-Marie courageously runs and is able to drop that off, and of course is stopped again by the German soldiers on her way there. And they don't understand what it is they're seeing, fortunately, with the lunch. And they throw the lunch on the ground, and she's able to get that there and make her way back. The story then jumps at that point to 2 years later, where we learn that the war has ended, and kind of learn how many people were saved through these Swedish fishing boats. What I love about this story most, I think, as it pertains to children, is that it shares enough of the details that we know that there's things going on. And as a child reads the book, they will be exposed to some of the cultural things that were happening during that time period that may pique their curiosity, which allows for a discussion to be able to teach about some of the rationing and the food and some of the things that were happening, and of course, prejudice against the Jews, but doesn't delve into enough detail that it is scary for them, and kind of leaves the imagination to know that there was something going on, but written in such a way that Anne-Marie is a hero, and hopefully encourage the children reading the book to know of her bravery and things that can happen in our world that are scary, but that we can accomplish them. I really liked the book. I was an Anne Frank fan in my youth and read that book also, and I'm fascinated by learning about these things. So I hope that if you haven't read this book, that you will find time to read it. I thought it was a great category into historical fiction. Thanks.